We have the pleasure of speaking with Rainer Zitelmann, author of over 20 books, 3 of them available in Spanish. En defensa del libre mercado, in defense of capitalism in English is his new book, and he joins us here at Voz Media to tell us more about it. Rainer Zitelmann is here in Spain to present his book, In Defense of Capitalism, and he joins us in Voz Media to tell us about it. Welcome and thank you for being here. We are very pleased to have you. Steve Forbes, editor-in-chief of the Forbes Group, said that your book is one of the most important books in decades in defense of capitalism. Based on your experience, why does society tend to look down on capitalism?
Yes, why? Because all the facts are on our side. You can see it if you read the book that we have all the facts, but the anti-capitalists, they are much better in marketing and in PR, and I think we should learn something from them.
Do you think this tendency to demonize capitalism is more prominent in young people?
It's everywhere in the world, capitalism is under attack. Look in Latin America, for example. Even in Chile, what was the most successful capitalist country in Latin America, people voted for socialists. Not to speak about Venezuela, of course, and Colombia, and now in Brazil they voted for. It's only a few countries like Uruguay without socialism, and it's everywhere in the world. In Brussels, here in Europe, they go more and more in the direction of a planned economy. In the United States, with the Joe Biden Green New Deal, they go more and more in the direction of a planned economy. So I think capitalism is almost everywhere in the world under attack, and this is the reason why I wrote this book. That is, we published in dirty languages all over the world.
In the book, you claim that government intervention in a country's economy gets in the way of prosperity, using the United States as an example where the government has limited powers. In a manner of speaking, would you say the government impedes the prosperity? To what degree is President Joe Biden administration an impediment to the country's economy?
I think what Joe Biden plans is United States becoming Europe. And I think in Europe we have a bad example now, because we see in Brussels they go more and more in the direction of planned economy. One example, now they forbid combustion engines from 2035. And I think Joe Biden plans different things. It's on the pretext of fight against climate change. They abolish free market economy and go more in the direction of a planned economy. Why do I say this? Because what's the difference between capitalism and a planned economy? In capitalism, entrepreneurs decide what to produce. In the end, it's consumer choice. It's democracy. Everyday consumer decide. And in a planned economy, politicians and government officials decide. And this is what happens more and more in Western countries.
You explain that capitalism has reduced hunger and poverty. You have found it does not generate inequality in the world as many people believe. What will have to change in society in order to correct these misconceptions?
First of all, I care more about poverty than about inequality. 200 years ago, before capitalism, 90% of the worldwide population lived in extreme poverty. 90%. Today it's less than 9%. And even in 1981, 83% of the worldwide population lived in extreme poverty. And if inequality is high, I think this is a concern for envious people, inequality. For example, take China as an example. 1981, 88% of people in China lived in extreme poverty. Today it's less than 1%. Of course, today people are more unequal in China because you have billionaires. I was in China. I found no one who told me, let's go back to Mao's time because we were more equal. No, not inequality should be our main concern, but poverty is the problem.
You claim that capitalism is not the enemy of the environment, which is particularly interesting, especially for extreme climate activists. How does capitalism contribute to environmental conservation?
Yes, one example. I come from Germany, as you hear with my accent. And so I can compare it. We had socialist East Germany and capitalist West Germany. And the CO2 emissions in East Germany were 3 times higher, adjusted to GDP, than in West Germany. And some other airborne pollution, for example, sulfur dioxide, was even 10 times higher in socialist East Germany than in capitalist West Germany. So if some people believe that with a planned economy, get rid of capitalism, they could solve problems of environmental destruction or climate change. It's crazy because planned economy never solved any problem in history. On the contrary, planned economy caused a lot of problems. And maybe you heard about this, the worst environmental problems were in socialist Soviet Union.
The United States is known for being a capitalist country. Based on your expertise, how much has this theory changed in recent years under the Biden administration?
It has changed not only in the Biden time, but it has changed over a lot of times. I can prove it by fact. There's a so-called Index of Economic Freedom by the Heritage Foundation. They publish it since 1995. And in the last ranking that was published a few months ago, it was the worst ranking for the United States since they published it in 1995. Today, even 16 European countries are more economically free than the United States, according to this index. And this doesn't mean that we are economically free in Europe, but it means how the situation became worse and worse in the United States. By the way, if you look at this index, the best countries are countries like Switzerland or Singapore, and at the bottom you find North Korea, Venezuela, and Cuba. So two Latin American countries at the top. And you know how the situation is there. The more economically free is a country, the better is for the people, the better is for the environment.
As we said before, the US is a country known for being not only capitalist, but also consumerist. In the book, you state that these two words do not always go hand in hand. How do you separate these two concepts in the current US economic context?
Consumerism is a word coined by intellectuals. They want to tell people what is good consume and bad consume. Good is the things that they like, bad is the other things that the other people like. Look, for example, if I would go to a supermarket as an example, I'm a vegetarian since 20 years. I would say, okay, first, I don't need this meat for what is it? Then I don't drink alcohol since 40 years. What are you doing with this alcohol? I don't need it. I don't eat even chocolate and sweet stuff. Why do we have this? But this is only my taste. I have to accept that other people like other things. And this is capitalism. It's consumer choice. And intellectuals think there should be some maybe politicians and so who tell you what is good consume and what is bad consume. I think let it to the people. They should decide. For everyone, something is different. We are different and we like different things.
What is the most important characteristic that the free market should have?
The most important is freedom, that everyone has the opportunity to dream his own dreams. This is so very important. For example, I admire Arnold Schwarzenegger, who came from Austria. He came from a small village. His father was a policeman, and then he went with 20 years to the United States. He didn't speak a word English at this time. And first he became the most famous bodybuilder in the world. Then he became one of the best paid movie stars in the United States. Everyone told him it's impossible, but it was possible. And then he became even 2 times governor of California. So this is the dream. Of course, not everyone can reach it, but everyone has the opportunity. And maybe I can add something, because I think we have a lot of people here who come from Latin America. And I was at a conference in Miami last year from Students for Liberty. And there was one refugee, she came from Venezuela. And she said, and she said one thing, don't forget, Venezuela was, even 1970, one of the 20 richest countries in the world. We had a free market, we had a democracy and everything, and now everything is destroyed. Democracy is destroyed, you have no freedom of speech, press, nothing. And of course, you know it better than me, they had 1 million% inflation rate, sometimes 10% of the population fled, even more today. And it was a warning from her. Don't think that this can't happen in your country, in the United States. If it happened in Venezuela, it can happen everywhere. And this is what people sometimes don't understand. The same with me. I come from Germany. And in the 30s, when there was this crazy National Socialist Adolf Hitler, people thought, oh, but not in a country like Germany. It can't happen here because we have all this culture and with Goethe and with others. It happened there, other things. In Germany, it happened in Venezuela. And if it happened in Germany, if it happened in Venezuela, it can happen everywhere. And I was very impressed by this warning from this refugee from Venezuela.
What is in store for the US economy?
What I predict, I'm negative with it. Of course, it depends a little bit about the next elections of the outcome. I don't know who will run for president for the Republican Party, and we even don't know exactly whether Joe Biden will try to make it one more time. So it will depend a lot. I think that you should change a lot of bit in the United States. You have too much government debt. It's crazy there, the government debt. You have too much regulations. I was, to be honest, not a strong Trump supporter. He did some good things, I think so. He reduced taxes. He abolished some crazy regulations. But on the other hand, I didn't like this protectionism and regulation, these things. But I think, I hope there will be a pro-free market candidate from the Republican Party to have a change, because if not, I think it will be really a hard time for the United States. But I believe in a way, I believe in America. The problem in the United States is that you mentioned before that a lot of young people, they don't share the values from the older generation. I saw it in our poll. In our poll, we did it in 34 countries, also the United States, about the image of capitalism. And the people in my age, older than 60, they were very much pro-capitalism, pro-entrepreneurship, pro-market. From the younger generation, it was different. And this is a problem. And one reason is
more progressive ideas, maybe?
Pardon?
Progressive ideas.
Yes, because they don't tell them at school something about socialism, and they tell them about the evils of capitalism, but nothing about... there was another poll some years ago. It was crazy. There was, I don't know the percentage, but an astonishing percentage of young Americans who believed that George W. Bush killed more people than Joseph Stalin. You think it's crazy what there's education at school in the United States. This is the reason why I'm writing my books, because I think it's important to learn something more about history. And my new book here is not for people to convince people who are against capitalism. They will not read the book. They will not buy the book. I had a lot of interviews in the last 2 months with United States radio stations, and one asked me, "Do you think you can convince people anti-capitalists with your book?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." And he said, "Oh, why do you write a book when you don't believe that you can convince people?" I said, "Because they will not buy the book. They will not read the book." I wrote the book for pro-capitalists to support with all the facts, with all the arguments. If you look in the bibliography of my book, I used 360 scientific books and papers. There are 900 footnotes, but don't be afraid, it's easy to understand, it's written straightforward. Everyone who can understand me now, in spite of my German accent, can understand the book much easier. But not everyone has the time to read 360 books and scientific papers. And I have the ability to explain it in a way that everyone can understand it. And so I wrote the book to provide people with like a weapon. For example, if we have next week a discussion about climate change and capitalism, only read chapter 3, you have all the facts. If you have a discussion about monopolies, read chapter 4. About inequality, read chapter 2. So this is my book.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you soon.
Voz Media. Hablamos como tú.